What's going on? Face Off Sports Network. We're back with the top win now players you should be trading for in your Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Let's start at the top. Let's start with the guy, and I might get some pushback for this. Aaron Rodgers. You have a win now Dynasty team. Aaron Rodgers could be that quarterback that puts you over the top. He is a very low risk, very high reward player. I get it. He's coming off the Achilles, plays for the New York Jets, and we know that offensive line is not great, but they have a whole entire offseason to retool the offensive line. We've also heard some rumors so far in this very, very young NFL offseason that Aaron Rodgers is trying to recruit, you know who, Davante Adams. Will the Raiders play ball? We don't know. Will the Jets go get Aaron Rodgers' guy? I believe the answer is yes. The Jets want to win now. They want to win a Super Bowl. They want to make Aaron Rodgers happy, which is why guys like Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard were on the roster last year. Davante Adams to the Jets is very much in play. Even if Davante is not in the cards, we already know the Jets have enough firepower with their current skill position players, notably Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, to make some noise in the fantasy football circuit. Aaron Rodgers in a one-quarterback league will cost you a 2024 late third, the 3.12. You could probably even get him for an early fourth, depending on who the trade partner is. People might just want to, hey, you know what? This guy, Aaron Rodgers, coming off the Achilles at his age, give me that fourth-round pick. I don't care. I want him off my roster. I have a nice group of young quarterbacks anyway. I don't need him. Give me the pick. I'll go try to hit. Meanwhile, you're getting a guy like Aaron Rodgers, again, for nothing, late third, early fourth. And Aaron Rodgers, even at this point of his career, can certainly finish as a top 12 quarterback or better in fantasy, which is a QB1. And we know when Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder and he has something to prove, and he does, we're going to get the very best version of Aaron Rodgers. So if you need a quarterback on a win-now team, let's say you have every other piece but quarterback. Let's say you have every other piece. You have Derek Carr. You have every other piece. You have Daniel Jones. Go flip a late pick. Go get a winning quarterback like Aaron Rodgers on your Dynasty Fantasy Football roster right now. Let's go to my next veteran player you should be trading for if you're a win-now fantasy football manager. Derrick Henry. I absolutely positively love Derrick Henry. I get it. We're going to worry about his age, and we should worry about his age. Derrick Henry is very much aging. Derrick Henry last year clearly wasn't the same guy. He was rightfully so conceding touches to Tajay Spears. After all, he just turned 30 years old. However, depending on how you drafted Derrick Henry last year and where you drafted him, you got a solid return. In PPR leagues, he was still the RB 16 in fantasy points per game. Gave you 14.5 fantasy points per game for a 29-year-old running back on a very bad offense with the worst offensive line in the league. You got to remember, going into last season, Pro Football Focus, they ranked the Titans with the worst offensive line. So you had bad quarterbacks, bad offensive line, and their wide receivers outside of D-Hop, I'm sorry, Treylon Burks truthers, I just don't think he's it. I know people talked up Chig, but who the hell is he? Derrick Henry was this offense really outside of Spears, who popped a little bit, and he still gave you a solid season, and he had his fewest rushing attempts since 2021, where he only played 8 games. He still gave us 1,167 rushing yards, 4.2 yards per carry, 28 receptions for 214. And oh, by the way, 12 touchdowns. Derrick Henry was still the 12th running back in weighted opportunities. He was a number 1 running back in the NFL in carries despite the regression. Only 22 red zone touches, which is concerning, but hey, the Titans really didn't get in the red zone very much. Still, number 2 in rushing yards. Still, number 6 in total touchdowns. When it comes to efficiency, the yards per carry, yards per touch weren't there. But could he still get the job done? The metrics say yes. 9th in evaded tackles, 8th in breakaway run rate, 2nd in breakaway runs, 10th in yards created. And Derrick Henry is a free agent. And guess where Derrick Henry could end up? With my Dallas Cowboys. One of the best offensive lines in the league. One of the best passing attacks in the league. Which means we could see a better version of Derrick Henry. Because he's really for the first time, I get he had A.J. Brown and Tannehill for a peak year, but if he ends up in Dallas, it's the first time in his career he's ever had this much firepower around him, where he might have some open running lanes where this truck could get going. Derrick Henry, I assure you at this point of his career, he's not going to go to a team like the Giants. He's not going to re-sign in Tennessee. Derrick Henry, you can make the case, has a fringe Hall of Fame resume. What's missing on that resume? A Super Bowl ring. So if not Dallas, I very much expect Derrick Henry to land with a contender. And if you're contending for a Super Bowl, you have a good enough team to where Derrick Henry could have a very, very solid fantasy season in 2024. And what we pay for Derrick Henry, a mid to late 2nd round pick. You're not going to have him long. Maybe he has 1 to 2 good years left. Probably only 1. But again, if you're a win now team, do you really care? You want to go get that championship in 2024, and Derrick Henry will absolutely positively get you there. Where that 2nd round pick could help you, could also bust, could also help you in 2 years. You could flip that mid to late 2nd round pick and get Derrick Henry and ride his ass to a fantasy football championship. Next on the list, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is like a forgotten man. Chris Godwin had a very un-Chris Godwin-like season last year. And in theory, it was kind of reversed, right? Like a lot of people were out on Evans because what do we know about Baker Mayfield? Historically, Mayfield likes the slot receiver, which is where Godwin primarily lines up, only instead he kind of flip-flopped and Evans popped, and Godwin had a kind of really bad season. His worst fantasy finish in God knows how long. Really, his worst fantasy finish since 2018, where he was wide receiver 36. This year, wide receiver 34 in fantasy points per game, giving us 12.3 in 17 games played. But we know Godwin, when he's on, he's been the wide receiver 15 or better between the years of 2019 and 2022. So what about Mike Evans? Mike Evans is a free agent. I know Bucs fans, they want to see him come back and retire as a Buck, but the NFL is a business. Does it make sense for the Bucs to bring back Mike Evans? Does Mike Evans want to return? Or like Derrick Henry and Aaron Rodgers, the aforementioned players we talked about, does Mike Evans want to go chase his Super Bowl title? And if Mike Evans exits stage left of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers locker room, Chris Godwin and guys like Trey Palmer, who I talked about in my last video, are your new starting wide receivers in the 1 and number 2 spots unless they bring somebody else in. So if we're looking into our crystal ball, let's pretend Evans is leaving, and let's look at Chris Godwin, who, oh, by the way, still going to be entering his age 28 season. And his keep trade cut value is a 2024 early 2nd round pick. We already know we have locked and loaded top 15 production in PPR scoring formats from Chris Godwin. We had it year after year after year after year. And I believe 2023, the regression was an outlier. Chris Godwin, if he is in fact the number one receiver in Tampa Bay, which he very well could be if when Mike Evans leaves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in free agency this offseason, then Chris Godwin's going to bounce back. You can talk your fantasy manager buddy in your league and say, hey, they're going to sign Evans back. You see how Chris Godwin, he fell off with Baker. How about I give you the 2.08? Don't try to steal Chris Godwin from your league mate. Be savvy. Wheel and deal. Be Jerry Jones. Be Les Snead. And go get Chris Godwin at a value. Even if you have to pay the early second-round pick for Chris Godwin. Again, more times than not, a locked and loaded wide receiver 15 or better in fantasy points per game year after year after year. Let's go to our next wide receiver we should be trading for if you're a win now team. And it's not a wide receiver. It's a tight end. And it's a tight end. We all know who he is. It is Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce. I get what you're saying. He was the tight end one last year. Why the hell would I trade for Travis Kelce? Why would I give up that capital? Well, his keep trade cut value is an early second round pick. This is the lowest we'll be able to buy Travis Kelce for ever. Even on a down season last year, where Travis Kelce had a little bit of a regression, he was still the tight end one in fantasy points per game. Still, even though in 2022, he was a tight end one with 18.6, he was a tight end one this year with 14.6. So 2 fewer points per game, still the tight end one. That tells us just how valuable and just how good he is. The fantasy community, they're a reactive group. They see Laporta. They see Kincaid. They see Pitts possibly getting a new quarterback. They're going to see Mark Andrews coming back healthy. And they're going to say, it's only a matter of time before Kelce's dethroned. Look at all these young guys coming up. Laporta was already better than Travis Kelce in 2023 when he's only a rookie. Sure, I'll give you Travis Kelce. He might retire after this season anyway. You're a win-now team. We know how inconsistent the tight end position is. You can go trade an early second-round pick for Travis Kelce. You have him for at least one more year, maybe longer than that, because if I'm Travis Kelce, why the hell am I going to leave that situation in Kansas City where even on a down year for the offense, I'm still winning Super Bowls? I want to go break all of Jerry Rice's postseason receiving records where I'm either first or second anyway. I want to go get more rings than everybody else. And I'm going to do that attached to this offense and Andy Reid, who isn't going anywhere, and Patrick Mahomes, who certainly isn't going anywhere. And I don't believe Travis Kelce's going anywhere. I think you get at least 1, maybe 2 or more years from Travis Kelce. I get he's 34. We see tight ends play a very long time. Go ask Jared Cook. Go ask Mercedes Lewis, who might be 105 years old, but he's still in the league. And Travis Kelce, oh, by the way, is 34 and still playing at an elite level. Go ask the San Francisco 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, and the Houston Texans. He torched all those teams in the NFL playoffs this season. When it comes to Travis Kelce's usage, fourth in targets, target share, target rate, all top 4 better. Fifth in air yards at his position, second receiving yards, third in receptions, fourth in yards per route run, eighth in yards per target, still 11th in target separation despite his age. I'm going to get my hands on Travis Kelce myself on some win-now teams. I have a really good one where I have a hole at the tight end position, and I might even give up a late first. since I was a runner-up in this league and try to go get Travis Kelce so I can go win a championship this year because I'm a tight end away. And if you're a tight end away, you can go get Travis Kelce on the cheap. And even if you go look at dynasty rankings, look at the consensus. Kelce's like fourth or fifth now, depending on whose rankings you are looking at the tight end position. Travis Kelce is an absolute must-add, a smash add if you're a win now dynasty team. Let's start closing out. Another guy is DeAndre Hopkins, and Hopkins is more of a dart throw. Hopkins is regressing a little bit at his age of 31. He's going to be 32 this year. Hopkins, 13.2 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 29. It was a downfall from 2022. We're only played in 9 games and was a wide receiver 9 in that category. I still think if DeAndre Hopkins lands with the right situation, because it was a train wreck in Tennessee with that quarterback situation, I still think if he goes to the right situation, we're going to see positive regression. The only thing is, DeAndre Hopkins is still under contract, but the Tennessee Titans, what do we know? They're not bringing back Henry. They're not bringing back Tannehill. This is a team in the rebuild with a new head coach. DeAndre Hopkins is not helping you in a rebuild, which why it was a head scratcher why they brought him in last year anyway. There's a good chance they trade or release, because I believe they have an out in his contract this offseason, DeAndre Hopkins. So we have to look into our crystal ball again. And do we really believe DeAndre Hopkins is with another team this upcoming season? And we look at all these top teams like the Buffalo Bills. Gabe Davis is a free agent. Stephon Diggs is becoming volatile. He's not happy. Jerry Jones says the Cowboys are going all in. Do they bring in these veteran players and try to go chase a Super Bowl? We know Kansas City, they just won a Super Bowl, but they do need help at that wide receiver 2 spot. There's quite a few teams that can use the services of DeAndre Hopkins. And even if Hopkins stays, I don't think it's that bad. He'll be entering year 2 with Will Levis. He did develop a little bit of a rapport with Levis down the stretch. And oh, by the way, look at the price point. A late second-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. You're basically giving away a late second for a guy who you could potentially get top 20, top 15 production from if the right situation happens, or if he stays put in Tennessee and Will Levis takes a step up. And I do believe he can take a step up. DeAndre Hopkins, a little bit of a dart throw, but he's one worth making, because if you're a win now dynasty team, you can certainly put him in your flex spot and get some quality weekly production. Let's start wrapping up. Marquise Brown. Now, he is a free agent wide receiver. He is not going back to Arizona. Where could Marquise Brown go? Because I'm a Marquise Brown guy. I think he's better than the stat line suggests sometimes. We also know that it wasn't too long ago, 2 years ago, when Hopkins was on his suspension with the Cardinals. Marquise Brown operated at a wide receiver 1 level for that run of games early in the season. He has it in him. He's explosive, 99th percentile 40-yard dash. He's a big play downfield guy. He's not somebody you can depend on a week-to-week basis. Right? Like, he's not going to be a wide receiver 1 on your team, but could he be a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 on a week-to-week basis if he goes to the right landing spot? And this is like another guy like DeAndre Hopkins, a mid-second round pick, likely gets it done for Marquise Brown. Is there a world where Marquise Brown says, you know what, I should have never left. I'm going back to Baltimore. Beckham, good chance he retires. Bateman, he's a bust. Duvernay, give me a break. The Todd Monken offense needs wide receivers. They have a good one in Zay Flowers. A couple of nice tight ends. They need more reliable weapons on the outside. If they're going to compete for Super Bowls in the AFC, they need to be able to score points at will. And Marquise Brown is that field stretcher that helps them do that. There's a good chance he goes back to Baltimore. Again, we know there's a lot of good teams that can use wide receivers with quarterback upgrades in better situations than he was in Arizona. So again, a mid-second round pick for Marquise Brown is something I'm absolutely positively willing to give up. All right, guys, this is another fantastic video. Hope you got something out of it. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification icon, all of that good stuff. We're going to be dropping outstanding Dynasty videos, rookie content, all off season long, free agency. I'll be live streaming my regular show and podcast where I love the engagement. I love when you guys ask questions. I interact with you, all of that fun stuff. I'm Anthony Servino. This is the Face Off Sports Network. We'll see you next time.